Welcome, dear listener, to whatever this is, currently untitled and going by the codename You Never Get Those Minutes Back. 5 video game foundations that have crumbled away. As video games and the technology associated with them has evolved beyond any expectations I harbored as a wide-eyed video game loving kid, we have witnessed the demise of numerous aspects from our beloved hobby. Elements and hardware that seemed irreplaceable, now thrown to the wind to never be seen again. The constant push for new leaps in graphical prowess, scope of world building, and an ever more intuitive online universe has sent some of gaming's seemingly immovable objects off to an early retirement. What follows is a little jaunt down memory lane as we remember those fallen warriors of video game lore and legend. The seeming rock-solid foundations of a growing global phenomenon that crumbled to dust beneath the weight of advancing technology. Anyone for joysticks? The LAN party. If there is one aspect from gaming culture that I will always lament the loss of, it's the fabled LAN party. Long nights of gathered friends, consoles, old fat big back TV sets, wires strewn across alcohol-soaked carpets, or fizzy pop-soaked carpets depending on the age, greasy snack-smeared controllers and the loud and bloody hilarious embracing of pure gaming indulgence. It was magic. At a time when the online beasts of Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network had yet to hatch, the only real way a group of friends could play together was to drag all their shit to a willing victim's previously pristine living room and turn it into a scene resembling Apocalypse Now. The typical LAN setup consisted of 2 or more consoles. In our case, this was the old and remarkably heavy original Xbox. Add in a couple of those fat old TV sets, one of which was usually perched precariously on a plastic lawn chair, a handful of controllers, including some of those dodgy cheapo ones from the local discount store that had less control than a vegan trying not to tell you they're a vegan, cheap alcohol, crispy snacks, and wires. Oh my god, so many wires. The setup itself was an OCD sufferer's nightmare, but for anyone with a love of social gaming, it was pure heaven, and the only real option. The game of choice back in the day was generally Halo 2, occasionally Tiger Woods. The intense battles that played out in standard definition as friend fought friend across a wonderfully brutal battlefield will live long in my memory. The arguments, flung accusations about watching each other's screens, about having the shitty controller, and about the game just basically being bullshit were wonderful and hilarious in equal measure. Evening became night, and night rolled sleepily into the light of a new day, whilst under the glow of burning light bulbs and jaggy graphics, our merry band fought on, bleary-eyed and a little drunk. Then the sands of time quickly shifted, and this vision was buried beneath the dust. The LAN party has all but gone with the online gaming revolution. In fact, for myself, it has reached extinction. Yet despite the new shape of multiplayer gaming, I will always believe the video game world is a little bit greyer and a little less friendly for the demise of the LAN party. I'm always happy to embrace new technological leaps, but there are also things I will forever miss. Although on the plus side, my carpets have never been cleaner. The joystick. Not just the joystick, the Kempston Joystick. I have no idea why this has stuck so vividly in my mind when I barely remember the make of any other electronic or technological device I've encountered over the years, but there was something about the old Kempston. Joysticks, of course, are still knocking about, and great euphemism still, but where once they were the key to unlocking other worlds, now, at least in my own world, they have gone the way of the dinosaur. However, I do still miss them, and dinosaurs. For a kid, these controllers were magical. They were a sign that the arcades were entering the home, and this was immensely exciting. The joy from 4 little suction cups on the base to hold them in place when the action got frantic. This really sounds dodgy. A couple of beautiful bright red buttons that simply screamed "press me." A trigger right for the pulling on the stick itself, and in some cases another red beauty of a button sat on top. The thing was incredible. The joystick was about the most aptly named device I ever knew. It felt as though we were in the cockpit with a joystick. Oh god, here we go again. It was real, and it was perfect for the escapist mind. It was a bit shit though for Daley Thompson's decathlon, but that's not worth worrying about now. Instead, let's remember the good days when frantic wiggling didn't detach the thing from its suctioned grip and send you flying from your seat in a blur of intense motion and shock. I'm sure I can't put this out on a podcast. I no longer miss the joystick, however. The modern day equivalent is a thing of beauty and offers more control over these games than the old faithful could ever muster. But there was a moment in time where these things were the pinnacle of gaming power. I grew up playing games on a joystick, and it seemed like the most natural thing in the world. But like so many other elements of gaming history, the idea now seems almost alien to me. Although there will always be that time when this coolest of gaming controllers had the aliens running for their lives. Physical copies of games. Now I know this is a long way from being a thing of the past currently, but the ground is definitely shifting. I personally bought a PS5 digital and Xbox Series S, neither of which can take a disc. I originally approached the idea to deliver games straight to the hard drive of the console with deep skepticism. I loved my games collection, the boxes stacked high and wide on the shelves, emphasising just how serious I was about playing video games. I enjoyed the tactile nature of physical games, the artwork, the shine on the disc, and the new game smell. There was, and still is, something cool about having games in a physical state rather than a digital one. However, my viewpoint has altered considerably, and I can only base my changing views on my own goddamn laziness. As great as a physical game collection is, it is nothing when compared to being melted deep into the sofa, scrolling through a digital collection, making decisions about what to play without so much as moving the air in front of us. It is bloody lovely. I've reached the point where I will sometimes not even bother playing a game because it would mean going to the shelf to grab the disc. I mean, who wants to deal with that? Digital downloaded games are superb. The fact that we now have to install games from discs to play them anyway means arguments regarding hard drive space have become redundant, and the reasons to pick up physical copies of games is dwindling further still, to the point I personally cannot remember when I last bought a physical game. But despite that, I will still always browse these games if I walk into a game shop or want to buy, and I will always remember with fondness the mass ranks of my Xbox 360 and PS3 collection towering over everyone who entered our home. I will also endeavour to seek out a candle that comes with new game scent. That is my holy grail. Multi-console wars. The battlefield of the console wars is ridiculous and littered with the carcasses of numerous pretenders to the throne, all marched in on a fanfare of expectation and hope, before succumbing usually to the fact they had forgotten to populate their all-conquering aspirations with anything resembling an army of games. For a kid growing up when video games were becoming ever more powerful media platform in the home, it was an exciting time. The console wars, or the computer wars as they began, were not the two-horse race we know today, where now we have Microsoft and Sony fighting like gladiators in the arena, Nintendo sat back like some Roman emperor eating grapes, happy with their lot in life. Once upon a time, we were thrown outlandish new tribes marching into the console wars in the misguided belief they could topple the giants. Spectrum, Amstrad, Commodore and Dragon marched against one another at one point. Although, as I remember, Dragon realised they had left the gas on and beat a hasty retreat. The kids took sides and pledged allegiance to the flag of whichever computer their parents had bought. And then came the consoles. Atari, Nintendo, Sega, even Philips challenged for the top spot. And again, as a kid, it was amazing. There was nothing quite like the excitement of pouring through the latest gaming magazines, remember them, and finding images and specs of a newly touted entrant in the console struggle. The Atari Jaguar facing off against the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive. The Sega Dreamcast looking like a real contender, like Sam and Frodo on the way to destroy the powers of darkness, only to be crushed under the ever-increasing power wielded by Sony Sauron and their PlayStation. And then the arrival of the superpower financial army that was Microsoft to prove a genuine threat to Sony's newfound dominance under the death of Sega and the retreat of Nintendo to that place up in the gods watching the action. The whole thing has become something of a blur for me now. I only know that I did want a Philips 3DO, and I wanted an Atari Jaguar, and the Sega Mega CD, and all the other bits that went on top of a Mega Drive to make it look like it'd been created in Scooby-Doo's kitchen. And the fact that everyone was pushing everyone else to go further with their tech was joyful for the bystander. Now, we don't really have a console war anymore. Sony and Microsoft have their own spaces to play and fight, and by and large, they are near identical. Nintendo are off doing their own thing. The chances of anyone being brave or foolish enough to enter the fray with a new console that can be taken seriously at least seems beyond the realms of possibility. But for a while, it was the greatest war that ever raged. Pointless, of course, but pretty damn great all the same. Memory cards. The memory card. Here we have a little slice of tech that will confuse young gamers in a way that a cassette confuses young music fans. Yet not long ago, these little square, unassuming bits of plastic were absolutely crucial in getting anything out of your games. Or at least in not having to go and do the same goddamn section of a game every time you booted up the console. And using the memory card, wow, this was as strategic as any of the games that populated the era. What to keep, what to remove, how best to utilise the limited number of memory blocks was a constant conundrum. Throw 2 or 3 cards into the mix, it was time to phone Mensa. I will always remember the joy I felt when hearing the original Xbox would ship with a built-in hard drive. I believe it was mere 8 gig, but at the time that felt as big as the universe. Suddenly, the woes of small memory card storage, lost memory cards, corrupted data on memory cards was disappearing into the distance. The portable storage solution, and only solution if you plan to actually finish any of your games, was breathing its last. And I, for one, was happy to usher it into the junkyard in the sky. It seems a lifetime away now that we were so reliant on such storage options, but because of the unrelenting pace of technology, it was really only a few console generations ago. The kids today don't know the bond, do they? Lucky sods.